Hello, everybody. Tony C here from the EAPicks.com Sports Monitor. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to play a segment I recorded earlier in the week with Mitch. We went over the Saturday college basketball card. I got to tell you, this is a monster card. A lot of great games. They really stacked it up because there's really no more NFL football playoffs on Saturday. So we got a really good card for Saturday college basketball. So I did a segment with Mitch on my personal site, Tony's Picks. I do a segment, a TV show there called Tony's Picks TV. But I wanted to share this segment here for Saturday with all the visitors and audience here at the EAPicks.com Sports Monitor. If you don't know, EAPicks.com is a sports monitor where handicappers document their plays for the world to see. Okay, so big college basketball card here on Saturday. We're going to get some picks and some previews here from Mitch. So without further ado, let's go right to the tape. This is Mitch from SportsChatPlace.com as we break down Saturday college basketball from a sports betting perspective. Card of the entire college basketball season. Kick it off here on CBS. CBS got a slew of games this weekend here. We've got Tennessee at Kentucky. Kentucky a 5-point favorite. Wildcats come off a 1-1 trip in SEC play on the road. They get a 9-point win at Vanderbilt. That was a nice win for them, but they lose by 2 in overtime to Arkansas. Kentucky 10-0 straight up at home. They got a win at Louisville. Tennessee opened up road play in SEC conference action with an 18-point win at LSU. They already have 2 home losses, though, this season. And with defeats at NC State and last week dropped the 57-56 decision to Texas A&M. We've got here the power rating here says Kentucky 5 better than Tennessee at home. How do you see this one?
Well, you got some interesting situations again in this one, and that really is what happens in these really good college basketball days and matchups. You have a Kentucky team that a lot of raw talent. So early in the season, they kind of struggled, but you know that the talent is there. So as the games go on, this team is only going to get better and better. And then with Tennessee, you have a team that's a notoriously slow starter every single year. And as rough as the record is, on paper, it's way better than where they normally are at this point. So, I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Vols at least make some kind of stand in this one. They certainly have the talent and size to do so.
Yeah, that's true. They certainly do. Back on CBS 2 hours later, 2 p.m. Eastern time start. ACC conference game. We got NC State on the road against Duke. The power rating says Duke is 14 points better at home. Duke is 10-0 straight up at home, but so far they've had their troubles on the road. Losses to Notre Dame by 2 and a 13-point loss last Saturday to Clemson. NC State, a nice road win a week ago at Notre Dame by 7. They also have a win at Tennessee. Negative, though, about this Wolfpack team is they struggle from the three-point line, hitting just 30%. That ranks 319th in the nation. We've got ACC action here on CBS. NC State at Duke. How do you see this one, Mitch?
Yeah, Duke having trouble without the inside game and the lack of a big man. If you're a high school senior and you're in the 6'10 range or better, you could play. I would give Coach K a call because I'm sure he'd be interested about right now. I think that's the problem with Duke this year. They certainly are loaded with All-Americans, just like they always are, but none of them have any kind of inside presence, and it's really, really hurt the Blue Devils.
Yeah, it certainly has. And we look at the 4 p.m. Eastern time slot here. Another game on CBS. Big 12 action. We got Oklahoma State and Kansas. Power rating line here says Kansas is 6-point better at home. After that 4-point loss to San Diego State, we've seen Kansas look pretty good. I mean, they pulled off 3 straight wins against pretty good competition. They win at Oklahoma by 7, then at Iowa by 7. Then they crushed Kansas State last Saturday by 26 points, laying 11.5 points in a rivalry game. Oklahoma State, they opened up Big 12 play with a 3-point loss on the road to K-State, and then they were a 5.5-point favorite in that game. They make the trip through West Virginia, get the win 73-72 on the road as a 5-point favorite. When you look on paper, Okie State, 14th in the nation in field goal offense, 16th in the nation in field goal defense. They limit teams to 38% shooting. Power rating here says Kansas is a 6-point favorite. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State is, a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I had them in my early Final Four. They've since moved out of that spot, and Kansas really playing well, getting it together, and going against the Jayhawks at home. Not usually a pretty good bet. Allen Fieldhouse, one of the tougher buildings in the nation to play in, and of course, Bill Self's recruiting there at Kansas, part of the reason for that home field advantage. When you look at Perry Ellis and, of course, Wiggins in the lineup for Kansas, who was really starting to show everybody why why no one could really lay off this guy and had already pretty much anointed him the #1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft.
That's right. Mitch, let's take a look here as the action moves to ESPN TV at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We got Pittsburgh at Syracuse in an ACC conference battle. These are two former Big East squads meeting up. Syracuse perfect 17-0 on the season. After that 5-point win at home to Miami, they've won their next 3 games by double digits or greater. Or double digits, 10 points or greater. Pittsburgh 16-1 overall, 2-0 in their 2 road games. This is a monster matchup here, Mitch. Pittsburgh at Syracuse. The power rating says Syracuse favored by 5 at home against Pitt. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Jim Boeheim just seems to reload, and the expectations are what the expectations are at Syracuse. But at this point, they seem to be delivering, and even in games where they've struggled in past seasons, they've come out and made statements this year. They're scary good. Pittsburgh, soft scheduling, but getting it done, beating who's in front of them, and that's really what it's all about. In college basketball, you need to have the wins over the quality opponents, when the tournament rolls around when it comes to seeding. But if you beat who's in front of you for the most part, you should at least get into the big dance. And that's where I see Pittsburgh at this point. I don't like them in this game, though, because I just think that this is a really tough spot for a team that hasn't really been tested.
That's right. And, you look at the shooting percentage, you think, wow, they're hitting almost 49%. Historically, this team has always struggled from the field. But, again, you said that shooting percentage probably based on their soft scheduling?
I would think so. I think that, they have solid coaching, they have solid talent, but it's always tough to tell when they haven't played the best of the best, and they certainly play the best of the best in this one. And we're going to find out a lot more about Pitt as the season goes on. Not the best year for the ACC, but a better year than it would have been with the addition of Syracuse.
That's for sure. All right, Mitch, Big 10 action. We've got Michigan at Wisconsin on ESPN. We've got the power rating says that Wisconsin's an 8-point favorite. Michigan opened up with a 3-point road win. Minnesota opened up Big 10 play, and then they laid the hammer here on Northwestern Nebraska and on the road to Penn State. So they're 4-0 in conference. Although this is going to be their biggest test thus far in conference play. They're going to go on the road. Here's a monster test. They're playing Wisconsin after they come off their first loss of the season. Badgers 10-0 at home. It's hard to win out there. Again, like we talked about, facing Wisconsin at home and Wisconsin coming off a loss is going to be a tough task for Michigan. But you look at the power rating here. It says Wisconsin 8 points better at home against Michigan. Michigan's on the rise here. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Michigan really had to regroup, and they were coming up. They were ranked earlier this season to start the season. I thought they were overrated at that point, but now we're starting to see them come together. I mean, this is a team that's loaded with talent. They lost some of the best players in the country off that team last year, but they still return a few of the guys from that team who provide that leadership role, and then guys like LeVert getting a lot more time and really starting to pay off at this point in the season. The problem here is that the Badgers, once they get ahead and once they really start rolling, they really know how to put the hammer down. They let Indiana off the hook, but I'm not so sure that they let the Wolverines off the hook here, as that game was in Bloomington, this game back home in Madison.
All right, Mitch, here we go. It's primetime action on ESPN. I think this is the first primetime Saturday night game here of the new year on ESPN here. It's Louisville at Connecticut. AAC action. The power rating here says Louisville's 1 point better. Louisville, they were defeated by Memphis on their home court by 6 points, but they follow that up with wins against SMU. Connecticut, they began AAC play 0-2 with losses at Houston and SMU. How do you see this one here? The Huskies shooting the three pretty well. It should be a really good contest here. The power rating says Louisville 1 point better here on the road against Connecticut.
Yeah, I think that Louisville at home in a night game in the Yum Center. Once again, a really, really tough building. Connecticut, outside shooting team, and if they get hot, they're going to be able to put some points. I think we're going to see a lot of points in this game. I think this is one of those really, really high-scoring college basketball games, and I expect Connecticut to be on it, but I also expect Louisville to really be able to get it done in the second half. Russ Smith and the gang at home. There's not a scrub on either of these rosters. This is a matchup that if someone sees in the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament, no one is surprised.
That's correct. All right, Mitch, we move to Sunday And we've got that doubleheader again on ESPNU, but they started a little early. 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's ACC action Sunday night. We got Virginia Tech at Notre Dame, game on ESPNU. The power rating here says Notre Dame favored by 9. It's been a tough year for the Hokies. Heading to Wednesday's action, they're losers of 2 straight 4 or 5 games. They struggle shooting the basketball. Notre Dame, they dropped consecutive games at home heading to Wednesday's action to NC State, and then they go on the road here to Georgia Tech and lose. Perimeter defense has been an issue here for the Fighting Irish, but can Virginia Tech exploit that with their poor shooting? How do you see this one? It's Virginia Tech at Notre Dame, game 1 of the ESPNU Sunday night doubleheader.
Yeah, Notre Dame really has been struggling lately. I don't know. I expected more from them this season. They lost again on Wednesday by 8 points, making them 10-7, 1-3 in the conference. Coming into this game, and it's just a lot of points to be laying, no matter how bad Virginia Tech is. And I don't like laying that big of a number with a team that's struggling as badly as Notre Dame is.
Yeah, that's definitely so. All right, the second game of the ESPNU Sunday night doubleheader will tip off at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's right. Like I said, they moved these game times up here this Sunday night. So 5 p.m. Eastern for game 2. It's Oregon at Oregon State. The power rating here says Oregon's a 4-point favorite. Oregon on a 3-game losing streak. What's going on out there? They're lucky it's not 4 because they needed an overtime to beat Utah in their Pac-12 opener by a bucket. But the defense has been an issue. In their 3 straight losses, they give up 196 and 82 points. Oregon State, they're off to a 1-3 start in Pac-12 play, but they're shooting the ball a little better. But this program is in desperate need for success. Too many down seasons for Oregon State, but this is a rivalry game. The line looks short but that's because Oregon's, has been playing poorly defensively of late. How do you see this one? It's the rivalry here, Oregon State.
Yeah, about a month ago, my Final Four was Oregon, Oklahoma State, Wichita State, and Michigan State. But I'll tell you, it's drastically changed since then. I just don't like the way Oregon's playing, and if they don't watch out, this season's going to get away from them. And this is a really talented team at least on the offensive side. Oregon State, they're no prize, either in this one, but they can score points. I think we see a lot of points in this game, and Oregon, once again, could be in some trouble here. I mean, if this game was played 2 or 3 weeks ago, the line here would have been 11.
That's exactly right. It would be a bigger line, I think, if that was the case. Mitch, we talk a lot about the big TV games, but what are some of those mid-major darlings you're keeping your eye on? That kind of the under-the-radar teams from the mid-majors that can make us some money.
I really love Wichita State and the way that they're playing this season. Of course, they're ranked in a Final Four team from a year ago. Just one of those teams. Another team, like tomorrow, there's a game between UTEP and Middle Tennessee that. Here are 2 quality teams, a game that's not on TV. You got to remember that in college basketball, there's so many games that even in a day where if you look at Matt Sarr's Sports, where you see the list seems to go on and on and on, it's barely scratching the surface for all the games that are out there. So you just got to keep your eye open. And in college basketball, it's all about matchups. And the 2 factors that seem to really make the big difference in college basketball and where you can find the value is rebounding and defense.
That's right. And what about some of our friends over in the desert? I know you spent some time in Las Vegas. UNLV, a lot of the Naders are restless over the way they've been playing, but it looks like New Mexico is really playing well in conference there in the Mountain West.
Yeah, Steve Alford, didn't leave the cupboard bare at New Mexico, that's for sure. A team they've been traditionally strong. I think, when you look around the country at kind of the bigger conferences, though, I think there's a lot of value in the middle of some of the big conferences like the Pac-12. We're seeing teams like Cal and Washington that didn't really have the big expectations, but they really are playing big this year. Cal has been super strong. We're doing this show before the Cal-Washington game that is tonight. Cal's favored by 9 points. I think that is a big number, it is a big number for that game. But both those teams just absolutely exceptional. We're also seeing the Xavier Musketeers in the Big East really starting to get it together. And that's a team that we know when the tournament rolls around, they seem to always just kind of move forward and progress and seem to be an Elite 8 team, Sweet 16 every year.
What's your thoughts here on Creighton? I mean, Creighton's off to a hot start in Big East, but once they start going on the road, I mean, this is a kind of a funky conference for traveling. They're an outside shooting team, and I think they're like number one at hitting the 3-point line from three. But when you start hitting the road, in this conference, how do you think that shooting will hold up for Creighton?
Well, what we've seen from Creighton so far has really been surprising. They've really been able to keep it together. I think on the downside in that conference, it's Butler. I'm surprised that that they haven't been able to hold it together. But I think that you're right. We are going to learn a lot more about Creighton as the season goes on. But I would say that they pretty much have punched their ticket. I believe they're going to the NCAA tournament this year, which stepping up that big in conference. From going from the Missouri Valley to the Big East, no small feat.
Not at all. And speaking of Missouri Valley, now that Creighton has left the conference, you see that that conference is getting multiple bids in the NCAA tournament. What happens to Mo Valley here with Creighton? Do you see? Do you definitely see downgrading this conference?
Absolutely. It's with Wichita State. It's pretty much Wichita State and everybody else, but what we've seen in these type of conferences, kind of like what we saw in the West Coast Conference when it was Gonzaga and everybody else. Eventually, some of the other teams start to step up and make a stance. They pitch that game against Wichita State to the recruits. They get players in there, and once in a while they steal one from them.
What about the A-10 conference? Anyone get your attention out there in the A-10?
Nothing ever surprises me when it comes to the A-10. I mean, it's just. These are some really, really good teams. Obviously, UMass has been exceptional so far this season, and they can play with just about anybody. And in the A-10, it just seems to always be that way. That there are no easy games in the A-10. They lost a couple teams this year in Xavier and Butler, who had a pretty short stint in the A-10. But look at GW, at 14-3, LaSalle. 9-6 overall, but 2-0 start to their A-10 play. Massachusetts, the quietest 14-1 team that you'll ever see, and even George Mason at 7-9, no easy out. They lost to UMass tonight by just 1 point.
I got to tell you, Mitch, the A-10 conference tournament is one of the most intense and exciting tournaments from top to bottom. I mean, like day one, you get a lot of snoozers, but day one in the A-10 conference championship tournament is pretty good.
Yeah, last year I believe it was St. Bonaventure that no one expected to win that conference tournament. Ended up going to the NCAA tournament. I believe they even won a couple games there.
Okay, how about the Conference USA? I know they may be off some people's radar now, but any team capture your attention in Conference USA?
Well, I thought it was going to be Southern Miss, but now all of a sudden, we have a couple other teams that are starting to assert themselves in the conference. I really like Charlotte there, but the problem is that they lack depth, and the inside game is kind of hurting them as well.
All right, Mitch, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on this week edition of This Week in College Basketball. As we take a look here at the action from Wednesday through Sunday. And I know you got things going on over at sportschatplace.com. Why don't you let the audience know about your website as we put it up on the screen here, sportschatplace.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because the NFL is wrapping up, things don't stop at Sports Chat Place. We just ramp it up. We take it up with, our college basketball coverage, our NHL coverage. We got the NBA, fully covered, and we're gonna do some stuff on the Olympics. We're not gonna pretend all of a sudden that we're an Olympic site, but we're gonna cover, the stuff that most of the people care about, and then of course, right into the World Cup and international soccer is something that we cover. All year, and we have for many years, and we pride ourselves in our authenticity of our coverage. We might not have award-winning writers, and we don't claim to be it, but we do have award-winning information and winning information. And of course, our writers are regional. Our hockey guys live in Canada. They live in the East Coast where hockey is big. Our international soccer guys, they live in Europe, and most of our college guys are regional as well. That's why we get it done. That's why we have the insight, and that's why it's helped us. And, you'll love it. Go on. couple of years, we just don't be as we used to.
All right, Mitch, again, I want to join us here on Tony's Picks TV, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
All right, that was Mitch from Sports. All right, that was our friend Mitch from SportsChatPlace.com. We thank Mitch as I went one-on-one with him on my personal website, Tony'sPicks.com, and I wanted to share that with the audience here at the EAPicks.com Sports Monitor because Mitch has a lot of good information. All right, that'll do it here for our college basketball pick here, our pick video, courtesy of Mitch. And I would like to remind everybody that EAPicks.com is a sports monitor where handicappers go and document their plays for the world to see. And by the way, if you like my best bet from college basketball card for Saturday or any day of the week you happen to see this video, give us a call on our courtesy line. You see the numbers right there on the screen, 888-711-3711. Once again, pick up the phone, give us a call, 888-711-3711. Get my best bet for today's action. All right, that's going to do it for our EAPicks.com college basketball segment. Hopefully you got that information there to help you for this big card this weekend. That'll do it for tonight. I'm Tony T. We come back tomorrow.